We're back. Thank you for listening to the show. You're listening to the Good News Show. We talked about the cost of waiting and what you can do to stop that. We also talked about the rates that have been slowing and staying stable. So that's pretty good news and moving downward. With that being said, Sandra has some couple things to talk about, some things to keep. We got John Spurr still back here. We're going to have fun with him for a little bit more on the last segment.
So we're seeing, I would say, quite an uptick in activity. So recently, and I know I didn't tell you we were heading this direction, but John's got this stuff all so internalized that he doesn't have to know in advance what I'm going to say. But we are seeing some multiple offer situations coming back. Are you still seeing sellers offering a contribution?
Yeah, definitely seeing seller contributions, again, towards buying the rate down permanently or to pay towards closing costs or whatever you're going to use it for. But I'm also seeing that with multiple contracts, with multiple offers. I actually had 3 buyers that were with 3 different real estate agents all make an offer on the same property.
Whoa.
What are the odds of that?
They're slim, but they were all in the same price range, all looking in the same area, and it was a great property. I understand why they all made offers on it, and ultimately, unfortunately, none of my 3 buyers got the property, but I did find out from the agent, because I know him well, that they did end up doing $5,000 concession on the offer they did get. And the majority of the offers that come across my desk right now when I get a contract, there's something. There's $2,500, $4,500, $7,000. I mean, I had one with $14,000. That's an anomaly, but I had one come through where they got $14,000 to buy the rate down and pay towards the closing cost. So that is still happening, but I'm definitely seeing multiple offers, and I'm back to writing 2, 3, 4 PQF letters for different properties before one sticks. So I think the point of this is, if you're thinking about buying a home, summer buying season's already in full swing, and you might be better off reacting now than later.
Yeah, my only thought is that get pre-qualified now, and when the temperatures hit 100 and we all start melting, take advantage of that tiny little pause when no one knows how to leave their house for just a couple days.
I'm telling you, the end of July, beginning of August is always that really interesting time frame.
Yes. Yeah, I just did a short little article talking about summer and how hard it is on not just us and our pets, but on air conditioning units. And you see the same thing once it gets over 100 degrees, those units, they all will fail. So I was talking with Barb DeFazio from Old Republic Home Protection, and she said, once you get over 100 degrees, you get this huge spike in claims, and then once the humidity gets high, you get a huge spike in claims. So it's our like 3-day window when we can get out there and beat out the other buyers. That's the way I'm looking at it.
Well, and you had mentioned getting pre-qualified. We take it one step further and pre-approve everybody, either by using automated underwriting or putting it in front of an underwriter if we need to. But it's important to get pre-qualified. Let's work through a budget, figure out what you qualify for. I talk to so many people that, oh yeah, I've looked at these 9 houses online. I really like this one. And then I have to tell them, well, you're not in that price range. You don't qualify for that house. So it's always better to get pre-qualified, know what you can buy, and then go shop.
How long does a pre-qual last for a person? Say I get a pre-qual from you today. How long will that last for me when I go looking at homes?
Well, I mean, indefinitely, if you want to keep giving me your pay stubs every week.
Okay.
If they're initially good for 60 days.
Okay.
Credit's good for 90 days, and we have to repull credit. But if you send in your pay stub every week and we know you're still employed and we keep having that documentation, it just keeps going. I don't have to go through the whole process again.
Does you pulling credit affect their credit score after you pull it more than once?
No.
Okay. People need to know that because they might think it might start affecting their credit.
So mortgage credit report is completely different than a credit report that is pulled for credit cards or auto loans and so on and so forth. So if you go shopping for a car and you go to every dealership in town and you have them pull your credit every place you go, that is eventually going to affect your score. Mortgage is a different animal. We pull a different credit report, we get different scores, and it's understood in the industry that you may not buy a house in the first 60 to 90 days that credit report is good for. And so if I re-pull your credit in 90 days, no, it's not going to affect your score. Now, if you go to 19 different mortgage companies in 5 months and have your credit pulled over and over, that's a different story.
Right.
I was going to ask you too. I was speaking to an agent the other day who said that their buyer was talking to a couple of different lenders at the same time, and one was an online lender. It was actually a pretty well-known company, but you have the ability to represent some of those companies that are online as well.
Well, I'll say the name that you weren't going to say because I get to represent them. So everybody's heard of Rocket Mortgage. They advertise everywhere. They're all over the U of A Stadium and everything else. And they're a very well-known lender, and they're online. I also, because I'm a mortgage broker, I have 29 banks I work with right now. I have access to hundreds, but one of them is Rocket Mortgage, and I am able to represent them and provide their product. Think of this from a Costco perspective. I do volume. I'm a wholesale customer of Rocket, so I get a better rate than they would say get if you went directly to them. So
it's kind of the best of both worlds, I think, because sometimes people start out online and they think they're getting a better rate online. But when we as agents are getting those pre-qualifications, we want to see someone local because we don't want to have to worry about whether or not somebody's answering their phone or if they're responding to emails. So you can kind of transition them from that online experience to an in-person local lender.
Absolutely, and I have access to the biggest banks in the country, and I work with a lot of them on a regular basis. So if there's a particular bank that you like, that you want to use or would like to go to, I can represent that bank and be your local representation here in town so that the agents and everybody involved have a local phone number that's going to get answered that they can talk to, and you can still get the representation of a larger bank.
I think all of us have had a bad experience with someone who's gone online, and you're dealing with someone who's out of state, possibly working in a call center. My favorite one, the buyers spoke German, and they needed to translate their bank statements, but they waited until closing to decide to do that, and they couldn't find anyone to translate that last bank statement.
It's funny you bring that up, because I do run into that also, but I have a relationship with some people at the U of A that will find me a U of A student or somebody within campus and get those things translated for me and do a translation letter. So again, the other part of having somebody local that's also done this for 31 years is the connections make a difference. What I have access to and the people I have access to is very different than somebody online.
I'm going to go with an Abbott and Costello routine and say, who's on first buyer? Hey, I thought that was pretty good. We're talking about the first-time home buyer programs. And you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so there's down payment assistance, and then there is physical actual grants for people that are first-time home buyers that need the assistance.
Before we go, is this stuff online, or can they just go and call you and you have all this information for you?
I know all of the down payment programs that are out there, and I can point you in the right direction if it's one that I don't do. I don't like down payment assistance programs where they do a silent second or you're getting free money if you're in the house for 5 years or 3 years or whatnot. Those ones typically don't have income restrictions, so almost anybody qualifies for them. But they're going to come with a higher rate, and they typically are going to have some sort of, if you refinance or sell in the first 5 or 10 years, you owe all the money back. In my mind, the last thing you want to do in this higher rate environment is lock yourself in on a 30-year mortgage at 6.5 with this $20,000 worth of down payment assistance that if you refinance in the next 5 years, you have to pay back. Well, I think everybody knows mortgage rates are going to go down in the next 5 years. Mm-hmm. And let's say they go down to 3%, but you can't refi without paying the $20,000 back. Those types of programs I'm not a fan of, and I will typically refer those out. Now, there are true programs out there for people that are low to moderate income, or they're buying in a particular neighborhood that really the only way they're getting into a house is if somebody helps them with some sort of grant, that you don't owe any of that money back from day one. And I have access to several of those, but you're not going to get $20,000. You're going to get your 3.5% and maybe $1,000 towards closing costs. So you are going to have to find some money, but they have normal rates. There's no extra closing costs involved. And it truly is money that you don't ever have to pay back with no strings attached. Those are the type of programs that I like working with and I'm happy to work in. But if somebody wants the other programs, I know tons of good loan officers in Tucson that I'm happy to refer them to.
I like that you'll at least look at the products, compare them, and then find the best fit for your client.
And we do that with anything, not only just down payment assistance. I spent an hour today going through 3 different programs for a single mom that's trying to buy a house and laid out, these are the 3 programs. This is your payment, your down payment, your costs. Here's the pros, here's the cons. And she was going to take it to her dad and go through it with her dad and get back to me. But I like making sure they have options instead of saying, this is what you're going to do.
I 100% agree. The same thing when they're looking for the house. All we can do is give them their options and let them choose the right one. So we want to thank you for being here today, John Spurr with Inspired Life Mortgage. We'd also like to spank. I said it again. Spank. That is such a tongue twister. Everybody at the table just lost their mind. We want to thank our sponsors. That should be a required test before you get to go on the radio. You have to say it 3 times quickly. We want to thank our sponsors. Rego Pest Prevention, Pioneer Title Agency, Indy Realty, and Caring Transitions. And if you guys use one of our sponsors, please don't spank them, but let them know that we sent you their way. Boy, that's hard to recover from. If you have any real estate needs, Danielle, Raymond, or myself are here to help. We are with Indy Realty, and I can be reached at 520-850-1725. Raymond at 520-904-7711 or Danielle at 520-373-6864. We'll catch you next week.
Thanks, John.